You're standing in a windowless room at Langley. No phone, no ID, no record that you exist. The man across from you just said 6 words that will erase your entire identity forever. Welcome to the Special Activities Division. You signed papers acknowledging government disavowal. Your military service record will be sealed, then classified, then lost. Your family has already been briefed with a cover story. You work for the State Department now. At least, that's what your wife will tell the neighbors. The man slides a folder across the table. From this point forward, he says, "You are a ghost." You don't know it yet, but you just traded your name for a mission, your identity for a clearance level that doesn't appear on any chart. This is your life at every rank of CIA black operations. And ghosts don't get to go home. Level 1, Candidate Assessment. You're a Navy SEAL with 6 combat deployments. The best of the best. Or at least you thought you were. A man in civilian clothes approaches you after a training exercise. No uniform, no badge, just a business card with a phone number. You call it. 2 weeks later, you're standing at Camp Peary, Virginia, the farm. The assessment makes SEAL training look like summer camp. They're not testing if you can shoot. You already proved that. They're testing if you can lie to everyone you love, if you can compartmentalize, if you can become someone else entirely and never break character. Day 12 of assessment. They show you a photo of your wife, ask you to describe her daily routine. You answer. Then you realize they've been watching her, testing if you noticed. You didn't. The instructor makes a note on his clipboard. You passed, but something inside you just broke. You don't know it yet. Less than 5% of candidates make it through. You do. Congratulations. You're now officially a ghost in training. Level 2, Direct Action. You're in a Toyota Hilux crossing the Pakistani border at 2 in the morning. No air support. No quick reaction force. No satellite uplink. If things go wrong, a State Department press release will call you a private security contractor killed in a training accident. Your family will bury an empty casket. Your team's mission, capture or kill a high-value target in a compound that officially we have no intelligence on. You're wearing no uniform, carrying sanitized weapons with no serial numbers, operating under a memorandum of notification signed by the president, legal authority that exists in classified documents most Americans will never know about. This is Ground Branch, the paramilitary arm of the Special Activities Center. You do the same missions as Delta Force and SEAL Team 6. But if you're captured, the government will deny you exist. You're doing what soldiers do, but you're not a soldier anymore. You're something else. The compound comes into view. Your team moves in silence. 12 minutes later, you're standing in a room with 3 bodies. The target isn't one of them. His brother is. His teenage son is. You had 12 seconds to decide what collateral damage means when there's no official record you were ever here. You chose. They're dead. The mission continues. Level 3, Team Leader. You've been doing this for 8 years now. You're not the guy pulling triggers anymore. You're the guy deciding whose door gets kicked in. You plan infiltration routes. Coordinate with intelligence support activity for signals intercepts. Make the call. Hit the compound at 0200 or scrub the mission. Tonight, you're planning a cross-border raid from Afghanistan into Pakistan. Operation Neptune Spear style, but smaller. No headlines. No presidential address. Just you, for operators, and a target who's killed over 300 people. You brief the chief of station. Review the intelligence. 80% reliable, they tell you. 80%. That means a 20% chance the man in that compound is a schoolteacher, or a farmer, or just someone who made a phone call to the wrong number. You make the call anyway. The mission launches at 0200. Your team kills a target. Also his bodyguard. Also a man who was just visiting. Your after-action report says, 3 military-age males engaged per rules of engagement. Congress will never read it. History will never record it. But you'll remember the third man's face. The one who was just visiting. You'll remember him longer than you remember the target. That's the weight. And it doesn't get lighter. Level 4. Covert Action. You're not pulling triggers anymore. You're pulling strings. You're in northern Syria training 200 fighters to overthrow a regime. Room-clearing tactics, ambush strategies, IED detection. You're a force multiplier now. One American operator turning 200 locals into a functional insurgent army. Half of them will use these skills exactly as intended. The other half? Your intelligence says 30% have ties to groups on the State Department terrorist list. Your orders? Train them anyway. We need boots on the ground. You've done this before. Afghanistan in the 80s. Nicaraguan Contras. Iraqi Kurds against ISIS. You teach people to fight. Then you leave. And sometimes, not always, but sometimes, they use those skills against you later. 3 years later, you're watching news footage. One of your trainees just beheaded a journalist on camera. You recognize his face. You remember teaching him how to clear a building, how to move in a stack, how to kill efficiently. You turn off the TV, pour a drink, wonder when you stop feeling surprised. This is a paradox. You're creating the enemy to fight the enemy. And in 5 years, someone like you will be sent to kill the man you trained. The cycle doesn't end. It just switches targets. Level 5, Hunter of Men. You sit in a tactical operations center in Djibouti watching a screen. Drone footage. A man in Yemen gets into a car. You've been tracking him for 8 months. Cell phone intercepts. Informant reports. Satellite imagery of his daily routine. You know he picks up his daughter from school every Thursday at 3 p.m. Today is Thursday. It's 2:47 p.m. Your drone has one Hellfire missile loaded. The approval just came through from Langley. You've killed men from 7,000 miles away. It should feel like a video game. It doesn't. You see their faces. You know their patterns. You watch them live their lives through a camera for months. Then you press a button and erase them. 2:51 p.m. You approve the strike. The car explodes. The target is killed. So is the driver. The after-action report marks them both as enemy Kia. You don't ask if the driver knew what his passenger did for a living. You don't ask if he had a choice. The intelligence was good. The target is dead. The mission is successful. You've saved lives. Probably. You tell yourself that. Most days you even believe it. But some nights, you lie awake wondering about the driver. Level 6, Forward Deployed Commander. You run a forward base in East Africa. 14 personnel, mix of ground branch operators and case officers. You coordinate drone strikes, manage partnerships with local intelligence services, run agents inside Al-Shabaab, brief the ambassador, who pretends not to know what you really do. You're running a small war the American public doesn't know exists. And you have the authority to approve operations up to certain casualty thresholds without asking headquarters. That's power. That's also weight. You get a call from Langley. A U.S. citizen has joined the terrorist group you're targeting. Born in Michigan. Radicalized online. Now he's in a compound you're planning to strike. New question. Does his passport protect him from your Hellfire missiles? You spend 3 hours on encrypted calls with lawyers. They cite precedents. Legal frameworks. Title 50 authorities. The conclusion, you have authorization. The strike is legal. You approve the operation. 17 people die in the compound, including the American. Congress is never briefed. The newspapers never report it. In the official record, it never happened. You pour a drink that night. Wonder what never happened actually means. Wonder if erasure is the same as innocence. You don't have an answer. You finish the drink anyway. Level 7, the architects. You sit in the White House Situation Room. The president looks at you and asks, "Can we remove him without fingerprints?" You nod. You've done this before. 2011, 2015, 2019. You return to Langley and activate assets across 3 continents. Operators in place. Local proxies briefed. Contingencies planned. In 6 months, a foreign leader will die in a helicopter accident. Mechanical failure. The official report will say, the international community will offer condolences. You'll attend the memorial service as a State Department official. You'll shake hands with a successor, the man you helped install. The operation succeeds. The leader dies. The country destabilizes exactly as predicted. 17,000 people die in the resulting civil war. Your PowerPoint presentation called this acceptable political transition costs. You don't think about the 17,000 anymore. You can't. If you did, you couldn't do the job. So you think in strategy, in geopolitical outcomes, in national interests. You've become what you needed to become. Cold, calculating, detached. You shape world events that will be in history books. Your name will never appear in any of them. That's the trade. Influence without credit. Power without recognition. You become a ghost at the highest level. A shadow that moves nations. And some part of you, the part that still remembers being a SEAL, being a person with name, wonders if this is victory or damnation. Level 8. Life after the shadows. You're 58 now. Retired. Living in suburban Virginia. Your neighbor asks what you did for work. Government consulting. You say. He nods. Bored. Moves on to talk about his lawnmower. He doesn't know you've killed men on 4 continents. Overthrown 2 governments. Trained insurgent forces that are now fighting each other. He doesn't know. No one does. Your wife left 6 years ago. She never knew what you really did. You just knew you lied. Every day. About everything. The lies destroyed you both. Your son won't speak to you. Says you were never really there. He's right. You weren't. You were always somewhere else. A compound in Yemen. A safe house in Syria. A black site you can't name. You see a therapist now. But the things you need to talk about are still classified. So you talk around them. Use vague language. Metaphors. The therapist tries. But how you explain moral injury to someone who's never had to decide if an American passport protects someone from a missile you control? You write a memoir. Pour everything into it. Every mission. Every choice. Every ghost you became. You submit it to the CIA Publications Review Board. They redact 90% of it. What's left is so vague it reads like fiction. Maybe that's what it always was. Maybe that's what you became. A fiction. A ghost. A necessary evil that a grateful nation will never thank. Because they'll never know. You kept the country safe. You know that. You did things others couldn't. Wouldn't. You carried the weight so they didn't have to. That's supposed to mean something. You tell yourself it does. But some nights, you sit alone in a house that's too quiet. And you wonder if the ghost you became ever had a choice. Or if the moment you picked up that phone, the one on the business card, your old life was already over. Somewhere right now, a SEAL is receiving a business card with just a phone number. No name, no explanation, just a number. He'll stare at it, wonder what it means, what it costs. He'll make the call. He'll sign the papers. He'll stand in a windowless room at Langley, and a man will say 6 words, "Welcome to the Special Activities Division." And 20 years from now, he'll sit in a house he lives in alone, carrying secrets he'll take to his grave, wondering if the ghost he became ever had a choice, or if the moment he picked up that phone, his old life was already over.